So welcome, Shaun. We're so excited to have you with us today.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You know, I've been experiencing your culture class, and you've taught so many presidents, CEOs, organizations, entrepreneurs about culture. And so let's just start out with the basic question of what is culture?
Sure. Well, I define culture this way. Culture is anything you create or tolerate. So there's not one thing in your company, matter of fact, your home, your organization, your department that you're not responsible for because you either created it or you're tolerating it. And the most powerful person in any company, they are the ones who control the feel, the culture of the company, regardless of position or title. Dianna, I've seen some people who don't have a title. They don't have the high position, but they control the entire company in the field. So I define it this way in the simplest form: culture is anything you create or tolerate.
Well, that seems very, very simple. And yet a lot of people, they have this gap between what they think their culture is and what it actually is. With all the people that you've helped, how many come to you thinking their culture is great, and after a couple of classes are going, whoa, am I in
Yeah,
trouble?
exactly. Well, that is the large majority of them. Because what happens is the larger your company gets, the more people you're having to deal with. And I don't know about you, but I used to be a people person, and then people ruined that for me. No, I'm kidding. There's a lot of problems when you're working with people because you have different personalities, you have different backgrounds, you have different moods, and different philosophies and ways of thinking. And oftentimes, the problem occurs when you don't get what's in you in them. And I've come to realize this: people don't lead the way you expect them to lead. They lead the way they think things ought to be led. So
Well,
that's
that's an
why you have been
interesting
in
point.
meetings and you say yes, yes, yes. You shake your head yes, and they say yes, yes, yes. You feel like you're in agreement. They go out and they do something completely different than what you have asked them to do, because people do not lead the way they think we ask them to lead. They lead the way they think things ought to be led. And I liken it to this. I have four daughters, and when they were young, they used to love this frozen juice. You just get it at any grocery store, and you probably know the type I'm talking about. It's the kind where you open it up and the frozen juice stays in the shape of the can. You dump it out, but it's still the shape of the can. Well, the can asks for 3 cans of water. I added 6 because I tried to make that sucker stretch. 4 daughters. And what I found was they were experiencing a hint of the intended product, but really they were only just getting a diluted version of it. And what I found is, there's so many aspects to culture. I don't have time to get into all, but it's character, it's conduct, it's behavior, it's language, it's spirit. Even spirit. There's a juice company I often frequent, and when I walk in, every single time they say the same thing: "Welcome in, welcome in." I mean, their backs to me. There's no eye contact, and I know why they're saying it. They're saying it because when they were trained, they were told, "Say this." But I guarantee you, I promise you, that's not the spirit in which they were told to communicate it. And then if you correct somebody on this, then they're like, "What? What do you, I did what you told me to." Yeah, but you diluted it. That's the big problem. Culture ends up being diluted every layer that it's not kept. So what happens is, for some of you CEOs and C-suite executives and managers, you have people that are leading under you. And the problem is, when clients encounter them, they expect the same thing that they would encounter with you. And now they don't encounter that, and now they're confused because they expect the same out of them as they would expect out of you. And this other person who is leading however they want to lead, culture drifts, and they're doing however they want to with attitudes and procedures and all the other things that go along with culture. And pretty soon they're tearing down the very thing that you are building. And then they're coming to you asking for a raise. You're paying them to destroy what you're building. The Leaning Tower of Pisa. Have you ever heard of that? The Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Yeah.
It was never meant to be called the Leaning Tower of Pisa. You know what they set out to build? The
Yeah.
Tower of Pisa.
They didn't
But
want it to lean.
that was never the plan. But here's the problem. In the 12th century, it just began to lean, and instead of correcting it, they just begin to build in that direction. Ooh. If we're not
That's what
careful.
we're doing, though. That's what the people out there are doing. You said that culture is what we create or what we tolerate. How do they even know? How do they check their culture?
Well, you have to go several layers down. And if you remember tapes, if you grew up in the 1900s, you remember tapes. And you would take a blank tape and you would put it in a boombox, press record and play at the same time, and you'd record your favorite song. Then when the DJ came on, you press pause, and then another song came on, you press record again, until you had a collection of all your favorite songs. It would be called my mixtape. Well, it sounded pretty good. And then my friend wanted a copy. And then their friend wanted a copy. And then they wanted a copy of the copy and the copy. Well, the first copy sounded good. But with every generation, it lost quality till the point where the fourth generation sounded, I mean, the band sounded like it was singing underwater, you know? And that's what happens with every layer of culture. So if the second layer of leadership in your company, your organization, if they don't have it, if they're not clear on what the culture, a temperature is, what's the third and fourth generations getting? Again, it's being diluted all the way down. So what happens, I find, Dianna, is that, and you've done this for years in your companies, you've seen how culture, if it's not protected, if it's not guarded, it drifts and it gets diluted the further you go down. So
how do they address it when it goes down? And they know that it goes down because you can feel culture the minute you walk in.
yeah.
How do they address bad culture?
Well, it's several things. Well, I love the whiteboard, so let me just give you a couple of insights, okay? I'm going to move my chair real quick. If you've ever heard of a little college called Harvard, Harvard did a study, and they studied 200 companies over an 11-year period, and this is what they found. The companies that established healthy team culture increased their bottom line by 756%. Don't tell me culture doesn't affect bottom line. I mean, this is way more than just having a nice working environment. This is impacting money. This is impacting turnovers. This is impacting your expansion. Everything that's in your heart cannot be accomplished without healthy culture. Matter of fact, let me introduce you to your new friend. Your new friend is Kate. CATE. Culture always trumps everything. Because you can have a good product or service, but if you don't have healthy culture, the whole experience stinks. So I've thought, Dianna, it's important to understand what culture is, but you have to create culture 3 times. This is where a lot of leaders miss it. You have to first create it in your head, once in your hand, and then once in the team. And a lot of leaders are frustrated because they're holding people to a standard that only lives in their head. It would be silly for us to go to a football game and then not recognize there are boundaries that are predetermined before the game even begins. So when somebody steps out of bounds, they don't say to the ref, "What? Nobody told me I couldn't step out of bounds." No, we clearly established the boundaries beforehand. And what happens is many times leaders, they just have this culture that lives in their head, but they never put it on paper. They never get it in a document. And more than a document, you then have to get it in the team. You have to get buy-in in the team, and you have to help them understand the why behind the what. And all of this happens through communication. So you have to become an expert at communication. You're not just communicating, you're casting the vision of why this is a better way. Because we all have clients, employees who don't want to participate until you let them know how this is going to benefit them. So you're painting a picture of why this is a better way to go in this direction, to lead this way, to carry these attitudes. And I put it this way: character is the first part of culture. It's what you carry. Conduct is how you carry it. Because you can carry the right thing the wrong way. And the behavior, that's how you act. This is a lot of unspoken stuff. And a lot of us have tolerated that person in whatever department, and we're walking on eggshells around that person. Why? I'm going to write a book called No Eggshells. We should not have to walk on eggshells around anybody in the company because we're a team and teams win championships. Matter of fact, I was at the Alabama Stadium and I had a private meeting with Coach Saban. He's the most winningest coach in college history.
Great
Winning is
coach.
a word, but he's that good. And we had a time to go down on the field. We're kicking field goals. I got a signed football, and I tossed the ball to a guy named Tua. He is now the quarterback of the Dolphins. And I tell him, hit me in the end zone. So I run. I catch the pass in the end zone. I spike the ball. In my mind, there's 100,000 screaming fans screaming
Oh, yeah,
Nepstad.
you're living it.
Yeah, it was one custodian sweeping, and he's like, this guy's a moron. But I was living my dream. Well, afterwards we have a meeting with Coach Saban and Tua, and I asked a question. Good leaders ask good questions. And I said, what's the difference between the years you win and the years you don't? Because you have access to the best players. You have an amazing, one of the top training facilities. What's the difference? And the answer Tua told me shocked me. You know what he said? He said, the years we win, we like each other more.
Oh, wow.
Dianna, I was not expecting that. I was not expecting it to be that rudimentary, that elementary. Like, I was expecting some grandiose, but then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, that's culture. Because you don't want to block for somebody you don't like. You don't want to pass to somebody you don't like. It's culture always trumps everything. It's character, conduct, behavior. It's your spirit. It's the attitude in what you carry something. And then language, what you say about what you carry. Because language creates culture too. So back to your point, I've had so many CEOs think, well, our culture is great. And the more we begin to dive down, the more they realize, oh, culture has drifted and vision has leaked. So now we're coming back in to reestablish what the lines are, the boundaries of our vision. That's one way.
Is it a lot because they just don't talk about it enough? They don't weave it into the conversations? Or is it the fact that they just tell people what to do and expect them to do it?
Yeah, that's part of the reason is we're focused on the wrong thing. We're focused on making money. We're focused on getting new clients. We're focused on getting the job done. I would say it's not about getting the job done. It's about getting the people done. You get the people done right, the job will get done better. And for some of you that feel like you have a lot, we're talking to people that have different levels of influence and their companies are at different levels. But let's just go to the top, all right? Let's go to Microsoft. Microsoft. That was a $300 billion company.
Right.
That's a lot. That's with a B. And then a guy named Satya Nadella came in 2014, February. He said, my number one agenda is going to be shift the culture and mindset of Microsoft. Now, I've coached some people in Microsoft and who were there before, during, and after, and they said, what I'm about to tell you is exactly correct. He came in and shifted the culture because the culture before, they built a great product. Can we all agree? Like $300 billion, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah.
But Sasha took it now to $3 trillion. And he attributes it all to healthy culture. It's a mindset shift. He changed them from know-it-alls to learn-it-alls. He now changed what they reward and incentivize with. How they do performance reviews is based on, did you help somebody else in another department? Did you help another employee? It's not just reward the smartest person in the room. It's if we don't have culture, we don't have anything. So he changed everything with 128,000 employees. And now they have over 200,000. But I'm saying if they can do it there, you can do it too.
Well, and he became an indispensable leader.
Yeah.
You said at the very beginning, the one that is over the culture is the one that is known for the leadership. More than anybody else, they don't even have to have a title. And that tells us a lot about culture. Yet as you work with people, how deep do you go with the culture? How often do you find that they go, hey, Shaun, just do it for me. Just come in and talk to my people about culture, because they don't really know what to do.
That is a joy of mine, because have you ever been to a conference, came back and you were excited, but nobody else on your team was? Have you?
Well, it's kind of like I say, I've been to Vegas and I've heard Celine Dion sing. I can't come home and sing like her,
No,
right?
exactly. Because they didn't hear what you heard, experience what you experienced, and now you're trying to regurgitate something you heard one time. So I often say, let me coach your team. When you, Diana, when you coach people, you can coach the individual, and that's a benefit. It's a huge benefit. But if you let us coach your team, whatever coach you pick, it doesn't matter to me. But don't just go to them by yourself. Let them coach the team. And let me give you an illustration. When I was young, we had an above the ground doughboy pool. Those little
Yeah.
cheap pools, the circle. They're about 3 feet tall. Well, my brother and I would get in, and we'd just start walking in one direction together, and we would get the current going so strong. Pretty soon, we just lay down and coast and float. Well, a neighborhood kid, when he came in, he automatically began to walk in the same direction as us because the current was already established and strong. And what I found is there's a lot of companies who don't have a healthy current of culture. They're just splashing around. So if we all got in the pool and we're all splashing and walking in different directions, how in the world are we going to create momentum? I'll tell you this, synergy is better than talent.
Isn't it interesting in that thing, momentum, to actually have that momentum going? When you have it, it's amazing. And when you don't have it, it is awful.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel it the
Momentum will
minute
make
that you
a
walk
decent
in.
leader look amazing.
Well, when you were talking about culture, I started thinking about there's a coffee shop, right? And when we used to go in, and of course I drink tea, I love tea, and I'd go in and I'd order and they'd smile at you, they asked for your name and whatnot, and then they started this mobile ordering, and I mean, now you just walk in, they don't say hello, they don't say anything, you grab it, you go. And I'm going, they're missing the whole point.
Yeah.
They don't connect with the customers anymore. They don't make eye contact. That's the culture you're talking about, and how they're saying now their sales have gone down. They're seeing all sorts of troubles in their company.
Well, how many times does it take for somebody to experience bad culture for them to say, I'm never coming back here again? It's one time.
That's interesting. How
One.
many times do you think it is? Because with me, sometimes it's once.
Yeah, no, it's one time. I mean, some people will give it more grace, but the large majority of people, if you have a bad encounter, there are too many other options. Like, we're not the only ones doing what we're doing. There are other people serving coffee. There are other people serving sandwiches. There are other people, that are
Right.
providing this goods and service and the tech industry, whatever it is, or selling homes. There's other people they can pick from. So it only takes one bad encounter for them, and it doesn't even have to be with you. That's the hard part. It
Yeah.
could be with one of your employees, but they then attribute that to you because they're a representation of you.
Well, it's about caring about people. And
Yeah.
that culture that they walk in and they think, oh, wow, you really do care about me.
Yeah.
Yet some of the employees don't feel like the people they even work for care about them.
Yeah.
That's a culture thing too. So what would you say to some of the people that if they're not getting the most from their employees, do you think it's because of culture?
Yes. I think there are people right now, 61% of your employees are currently looking for another job. They're not going to tell you, but when they find a good enough job, they're gone. And people will leave a job taking more pay to take a job with less pay because right now, they're more concerned about a healthy working environment than they are even being incentivized with more money. So here's the red flags, okay?
Yeah.
If you have bad culture, there's low productivity. There's a lack of cohesion. There's a lack of team. It's transactional. People are there for the paycheck and nothing else. There's no trust. There's a lot of gossip, walking on eggshells for people. And so I find a lot of CEOs actually we spend an entire lesson on how to have hard conversations effectively. And we help you understand that you don't have to avoid addressing bad culture. You have to. But there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Some people are like, I don't mind hard conversations. Yeah, but is it effective? Are you effective? Yeah. So there are people right now I drove without a license. I'm going to just confess that on your podcast. When I was 15 years old, and some of you watching this, you probably have driven without a license too. Maybe before 16, or you had your license suspended, and you still drove.
Yeah.
Well, I promise you, there are people right now in your company, they are driving without a license. They're a driving culture, but you have not licensed them to drive like that here. So bad culture is never satisfied in the back seat. It's always reaching for the steering wheel to drive. And so what you have is you have individuals or clients or employees crashing into people with personalities and with mood and with all these other things, and it's causing shock waves through the entire culture of your company. And in your mind, you're thinking, well, let's just grind, let's just focus on the bottom line. You cannot get to the bottom line unless you go through the tunnel of culture first.
A lot of people haven't really defined their culture, or when an employee comes into the company, do they really sit down with them and go through what the culture is, or do they just expect them to catch it?
Most people just expect them to catch it, but most people don't carry that. So in my Killer Culture Academy, it's an 11-week program, and we take you step by step on how to reestablish and design the culture that your company demands to win. Not just the culture you want. What does your company demand to win? And so I would encourage you to, let me say it this way. A lot of you spend so much time putting out fires. It's just, I got fire here, got a fire here, got a fire here. I spend my whole week putting out fires. A great leader knows you have to move from being a firefighter to an architect.
Ooh, I like that.
Don't just put out fires. You have to architect. You have to design the culture that you want to see in the team. You have to design and architect new sprinkler systems so that fire doesn't happen again, and new safety protocols so that fire doesn't happen again recurringly with the same department. Because we're tolerating so much. I mean, just think about it for a moment. How much healthy culture have you created intentionally, architect, designed, versus how much toxic culture, anything harmful, unpleasant, or hurtful, how much of that have you just allowed and tolerated?
Well, and even just a little bit, right? Even just a little bit of culture. Shaun, what if you're off 1%? What really happens to that culture?
Yeah, I love the idea. You've probably all seen this graph of some sort. Let's just say this is where you want to go, and this is the vision. All right. Well, when culture's off just a little bit here, it doesn't look like much. It's like, oh, it's so minuscule, it's so small, let's not even address it. It's a wrong attitude, it's showing up late, it's, fill in the blank of whatever the issue is. We don't address it here because it's small. 2% off, you would, if a company said we're having a 2% off sale, it wouldn't even get you off the couch to go to the store.
No.
But 2% up here becomes so problematic. And that's why we have to deal with it down here. If you've ever looked in your backyard and saw a weed, and you thought to yourself, drinking your coffee, I ought to address that. And you don't. And 7 days later, you have Jack and the Beanstalk in your backyard. And you go out there and you're pulling, and it hurts your back. And I've done this. I've gotten so frustrated at a weed years ago, I took a shovel and just cut it off. I cut it off at the soil, and I thought, I handled that. Well, 7 days later, it grew back with a vengeance because the roots went down to Middle Earth and latched onto everything. So that's my point. Like, when it's small, engage. Because the roots will go down and latch onto every department, every personality, every heart, every mind, every meeting. You've got to get this right.
Yeah, it's a feeling that the people have. What if you liken this to, like, you get in your car and you're going to start driving, right? Yeah. Only you're off that 2%, like you show there. How long would it be before you're in a different state than what you wanted to be in?
Well,
That's
not
what
only,
you're talking about.
yeah, exactly. But not only a different state, you would first start off in a different lane, and a lane change is not seen as that bad, but then you keep driving that same trajectory. Now it's 2 lanes off. Now it's 3 lanes off. Now you're hitting a wall. So again, if it's just this, it's not that bad up front. We're talking long term. We're talking down the road. I even like that phrase, down the road, for the example that you gave. Because down the road, bad culture, not held clear and steering properly, it will crash. And you've seen it. You've seen people crash and burn in their job, in their position with other people. And the reason that so many people are taking sick days and mental health days, they're not even sick. They just don't want to come work there anymore, and they just feel like, I can't handle it. And that affects turnovers, that affects bottom line, it affects impact, and everything that comes out of your company is directly related to this.
You're talking about a lack of direction, being out of alignment. And a lot of people, they don't want to have those conversations. They're frightened of them. And I know you teach people how to have those candid conversations. Yet I remember you saying you've got to care about the person before you can have a candid conversation. And that's culture, right?
I would say this. I don't know if you can read it all.
No, we see there we go, build your credit.
Build your credit. And I don't mean your credit, like your credit score, but I would say build your credit score with people. I'm not talking about credit cards. Build your credit with people. Because if you have developed a culture of care, I can take a correction from you if I think you're for me. If my mom told me, Shaun, put the shopping cart away in the grocery store parking lot, I'd do it. Because I know she cares for me. I know she loves me. I know she wants me to win in life. If some stranger rolled up and said, hey, put that shopping cart away, I'd be like, I don't know you. Get off of me. Don't avoid hard conversations. Don't delay the inevitable. It's a great way to say it. Because you know you're going to have this conversation eventually. Don't delay the inevitable. Just have it the right way. But you have to build your credit so that they know that you're for them. Because if I said, hey, take your phone out right now and text somebody in your contacts, hey, come help me move this weekend. Watch them not text you back. Because we all have that person, right, that is in our phone, and when they call, we say, what do they want? What do they want from me? So do your employees know it's not just what I want from you, it's what I want for you. So reward what you want repeated. Celebrate wins like crazy. Cast the vision of this is where we're going. Here's why this is a better way. And here's why this is going to better impact you in the working environment. We all want the same thing. Let me take us there. But don't avoid hard conversations. These hard conversations, I would give you one word. I know we don't have time to get into it all, but in my program, we unpack this greatly. These two words will help you. Describe and explain intent versus impact. Okay, this is worth the whole podcast right here for those that are watching. I'm going to help you so much. I'm going to make it so simple for you. When you're having a difficult conversation with somebody, use these two words. Let them know. Friends, I'll give you an example. I know this wasn't your intent, but this is how you impacted the team. Notice how I didn't attack your character. Because here's the problem. Communication is not mutual talking, it's mutual understanding. And if
Say that again. That's really good.
Communication is not mutual talking, it's mutual understanding. So if you go into a meeting and you think, oh, I'm ready to go. I'm going to blast them. I'm going to command them. I'm going to, demand something out of them. The wall is up. They're not hearing you. So what do you have to do when you first walk into a meeting? You have to tear the walls down. You have to, the ice wall, you have to chisel that away. And it does not come from pleasantries. Hey, how are you? How's your family doing? Because they already know they're in the principal's office. They already know there's a tough conversation. They're bracing themselves, positioning themselves for a fight. And when you come and you surprise them with this, they think, okay, I'm not being blasted, but I am being corrected. Right. So I know this wasn't your impact. I know this wasn't your intent. Let me explain the impact. Or you turn it around. Hey, I'm so sorry that I impacted you that way. It was not my intent. So I'm letting you know that's not my heart for you. That's not my normal character. That was not my intention at all. But it did impact you this way, and so let's deal with the impact. Because so many times we're only fighting personalities, but we're not dealing with the root issue. So we've cut off the weed at the top of the soil, but the roots have gone down, and they're already in, other departments, and there's always a meeting after the meeting.
Yeah.
So you think, this is great. We had a great meeting. And then they go talk to their department, their friends, and they tell how bad the meeting went. Well, that's culture. Culture are the conversations that people have in your company when you're not there.
Well, that's a great way to put it. And so if the people are having these conversations and you know they're having them, how do you find out about them? What are some things that leaders can do to be checking that culture? Let's call it the temperature. Like you're the thermostat on the wall. How would you become that thermostat as a leader?
You have to be present. And I know the larger companies, you can't be present in every department. I mean, some of you have hundreds and thousands of employees. But you do need to make sure the layer of leaders that are directly reporting to you carry what you carry. And then you're teaching them to do the same for the next generation or the level of leaders. And if they're not clear, again, if they're not clear, what's the third and fourth layers of leaders getting? So it has to be clearly established. That's why I say, whatever coach you pick, have them coach your whole team. Clarity and alignment give you speed. Clarity and alignment give you speed. So if it's just you thinking this and living this and nobody else is, well, good luck. But if you can get the majority of the people, one study said if you can get 10%, start with 10% of a population moving in a direction 100% of the time, it will impact the rest of the population.
Yeah, it'll be like social learning, right?
Yeah, the more people can get on the same page, the quicker you can run. So it's starting with your second tier leaders, but then broadening it out. Get them to be early adopters of this, and let them know the why. This is not, hanging a banner. This is not a new logo. It's teaching it. And I had somebody, Dianna, ask me, how often should I teach culture? And I said, well, let me explain it this way. If I wanted my daughters to learn another language, I would not just buy, the language for dummies and put it on the shelf and call it a day. I would literally, that's not a win to me. And some people have a PDF. They have their mission, vision, values in a PDF somewhere. It's on a shelf somewhere. It's on a computer somewhere, but nobody even knows it. But if you take those children or that person and engulf them, immerse them in that, that language, that culture at another country, they'll learn the language so fast. Why? It's immersion. So
Well, it's like some people have it on the wall, right? They have it all printed out on the wall. And yet, I think you're talking about a standard that you're not going to go below. And when you address that standard, you're not beating up the person, you're not having a problem with the person. You're addressing and holding them to a standard.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I'll give you the bridge of leadership real fast. Let me see if you can see all this. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to write it out for a second, then I'll explain it.
Okay, I can see something really great coming, so keep it going here.
Okay. First we start off with vision. You have to have an idea of what you want to see. Without vision, people perish. Without vision, people cast off restraint. You have to have the vision, a clear vision of what you see. But then we have to build the trust in the team that's going to carry the vision. And then there's communication. I'll just put calm, okay? And then there's empowerment. And then, let's see if you could read this. Then there's execution. Here's the problem, Dianna. Most leaders, they want execution. And so they believe they can just skip several steps and it doesn't work. So now you have people jumping off the bridge, they're leaving to go to other companies. They're leaving to do their own thing. They're taking more time off. They're like, this bridge is collapsing. I can't function here. We cannot skip these steps. We can't go from vision to execution. And by the way, we cannot go to vision to empowerment. Ooh. We can't
That's sad.
hire the next person. Yeah, hire the next person. Empower. You're a leader now. We hired you from LinkedIn. We hired you from wherever, and they don't have the culture. They don't have the language. They don't have the character. They don't have anything that you possess or want. And now you're still expecting it to get here. We've got to spend the time to build trust again. And if trust has fallen, if trust has collapsed or eroded, we have to come back and rebuild that through a culture of care, coaching, and correction. And then, of course, communication is how you disseminate everything that's in your head and your hand, and now you get it into the team, and now they're ready to be empowered to execute everything that the company's about.
Well, you're kind of giving us a playbook here
Yeah.
of what to do with culture, right? I mean, you're taking it from the head to the hand to the team, and now you're showing us exactly what will happen in the steps and how we have to take them. Because without trust, they're not going to really believe anything you say anyway.
Yeah.
So you're talking about designing something. Yet,
Yeah.
don't you design that at the very beginning?
Yeah, you do design it, but it's important. Like, I'm just a regular guy who have learned some leadership principles over 2 decades. That's helped me. I know what it's like to have great culture, and I know what it's like to lose it, and I know what it's like to get it back. When you're picking a coach, pick whoever you want, but just know, pick people who are not teaching you things in theory, but have never had to do them themselves, have never had to solve the problems themselves.
Yeah.
That's important. But we built out a 43,000 square foot building, and the first thing we did, we walked it. Got a vision for it. Second thing we did, we hired an architect, and our architect put it on paper. Third thing, they gave those plans to the actual team of contractors to get building swinging hammers. Okay, you would think the process is just going to run like clockwork smooth. I showed up every day. Every day. I caught them. They were about to put a wall 20 feet off where it was supposed to be. We had a stage. We had a big stage, 65-foot stage that was, they were going to put that 50 feet off. So there are people who have the vision, they've written it down, they've given it to the people who are supposed to implement, but then you have to have this big umbrella of accountability. Because even the people that are given what you have printed may build the wrong way if you're not overseeing it. So that's why it's not just set it and forget it. It's not, oh, let me just implement this and then we're good to go. Even Tesla has a self-driving automated, I press the doo-doo and it just drives itself. Every couple minutes it asks me, put your hand on the wheel to let it know I'm still there. When you set culture, you're going to set it with your leaders. You're going to communicate in your head, your hand, and in the team. But you have to you or your team has to let them know we're still here. We drive this way. Just let them know, because accountability makes sure all of this comes to pass.
Well, what you're doing is you're saying, in essence, as the leader, everything rises and falls on leadership, like our mentor John Maxwell says, right? Exactly. And so you're just saying to the leaders, hey, watch your culture, and I'm here to help you. I know what you've done with many, many companies when it comes to their culture and how you've turned them around to get more production. So let's say people are interested after watching this. Where would they get in touch with you, Shaun?
You can find my website, Shaun Nepstad, ShaunNepstad, ShaunNepstad.com, or go to killercultureacademy.com. That's killercultureacademy.com. Somebody asked, why do you call it killer culture? Because all of us have a culture that's killer, like it's amazing, or it's killing you. So you get to decide. You get to decide if it's going to be amazing or not amazing.
And you said that vision leaks and culture drifts.
Yeah.
And so their culture may have been great when it was just them and a few other employees, yet as they get bigger and bigger and bigger, that culture can drift faster. So
Yeah.
what are your parting words that you have for us today?
Well, you need a coach. Every great leader has a coach. What does a coach do? A mentor puts stuff in you. A coach pulls stuff out of you. And
Great way to put it.
a coach will challenge you and correct you. You think of the greatest athletes in the world. They all have a coach that they pay to correct them, that they pay to make them better. Every great CEO, they have coaches. So if you think you're going to somehow do what has never been done before, you might be fooling yourself. And I would encourage you, you don't have to use me or Dianna, but you do need somebody who has been where you want to go and has the steps very clearly laid out from experience. I know what I'm able to deliver. I know where the problems we're able to solve. And some of you, you have expressed this to your spouse, your team, your family. You've been looking for somebody to provide medicine for your headache because of the lack of cohesion amongst the teams, the attitudes, the moods, the turnover rate. It's like you just can't get that momentum. And I found in my personal life, it comes when I engage with a coach and they make me better by laying it out. Because I can't figure it all out by myself. I need someone to help me.
Yeah, neither one of us would be where we're at if we didn't have coaches. In fact, it kind of frightens me of a coach that doesn't have a coach, right? Or other coaches around them to help. And I know that as a coach, taking accountability and making that relationship one of a partnership is so much different than a mentor. Because I loved what you said, a mentor puts it into you and a coach pulls it out of you. And you can have both. In fact, I've had multiple coaches in my life. You know, Susan Scott for fierce conversations, how to communicate. Wow. I've had John Maxwell for leadership. I've had Don Yeager for speaking and telling stories. All these different people pour into our lives. And I know you've poured into many lives with the culture, and we just are so excited that you helped us with culture today. Don't just put it on your walls, people out there, because let's look at Enron, integrity. And what did they go down for? It wasn't because it was on their wall. It was because it wasn't in their heart. Wow. So I trust that some of the people will take the Killer Academy or Killer Culture and engage with you so they can understand how to have more production. Actually, just have more fun. So thank you, Shaun, for being with us today. We so appreciate it.
It's been my joy. Thanks so much, Dianna.
For those of you who are really challenged a little bit with your culture, here's just some of the notes I've taken from the Killer Culture Academy. I've got oodles of notes right here to help out, and that's what Shaun does. He helps with culture, and everyone, as he said, needs a coach. I trust you'll get in touch with him. Shaun, tell us one more time how we can reach out and capture what you have to give us.
Sure, you can go to killercultureacademy.com. Killercultureacademy.com.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.